In this video, I'm going to put in some hung ceilings in this space. So the first, I'm just going to do a typical ACT ceiling acoustical ceiling tile. And let's go to a ceiling plan. It's the easiest way to do this. And it'll show me a reflective ceiling plan. And so there's the area I'm going to put ACTs in. And I'm going to go and into architecture and go into ceilings here. And then you can see there's an automatic ceiling, or I can sketch the ceiling. I'm just going to use an automatic ceiling in this case. And then you'll see some 2x2, 2x4, and there's some other ceilings that you can download. But I'm just going to use a standard 2x2 ACT system. And since my rooms are pretty consistent, I don't have any weird spaces, or I don't want to offset them from the walls, I'm just going to select the interiors of the rooms, and you'll see that the first thing it does is center the ACT in the room. And so these are the ones that I want a ceiling in. And then if I wanted to line some of this up, I could move the ceiling tiles just by simply going in and selecting it. So I'm going to modify, do a little tab here, select it, and then move. And if you see then that will move the grid. Okay, but I don't want to do that. I'm just going to leave it centered in all the spaces. So that's how you put in a simple ACT ceiling. Now let's say I wanted to put in a floating ceiling that was, say, curved. And to do that, you can't just use the ceiling command here. What you do is you have to use an in-place geometry. So I'm going to go back to architecture and into components, and I'm going to model in place. Okay, and I'm going to identify this model as a ceiling category, and we'll just call it wavy ceiling. And wavy ceiling I'm going to do from, because I'm going to extrude some geometry, so I'm going to do it from a section. So I'm just going to select my east-west section. There we go. There's my east-west section. And we'll zoom in here. And I'm going to put a wavy ceiling in right here. So I'm going to use an extrusion. I have to identify a Z plane on which I'll be drawing, and I'm going to use my grid B, since my grid B runs this direction, my A, B, and C's. And so I'm going to start drawing on that B section, and I'm just going to use a spline here, and just so that you can see this, I'm going to see here. And that's good enough for what I want to do right now. So that's the ceiling I want to put in. And then I'm going to offset that line to create some depth. So I'm going to do an offset. And now I have an offset here, and then I need to close this because it's going to extrude it along the horizontal. So I'm going to make sure that I snap at those edges, and now I have a closed object. And you'll see right here, this is the extrusion start, so it's going to start at 0, 0. That means it's going to start at that grid line B, since I use that as my Z depth. And then it's going to extrude 10 feet in the positive direction. I can set a material onto it, so if I wanted to paint it, make it purple, make it green, whatever, I could, or checkered, whatever I wanted to do. But right now I'm just going to leave it without a material. And I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to finish this model. And so now I've got this hung ceiling in here, this wavy hung ceiling. And if I wanted to look in go back to my ceiling plan, let's WT this and go back here. We'll see there's my CT, and this is my, remember, my B grid line, so that's where it started it, and then it made it 10. And so here I could just stretch this out so that it was kind of a floating. I can decrease it a little bit so that it floats in the space. I'll do the same thing here. And now let's go into the first floor plan and let's set up a perspective so that we can see it in perspective. So I'm going to go into the first floor plan and go views, cameras, and let's start right there and look this direction right there. Okay, and so we can see now I have my kind of wavy ceiling in here. Okay, and of course I don't have a ceiling over here yet, so but if I were to widen this up, we can see my wavy ceiling here. Make it a little bit wider here. Okay, so we can see my wavy ceiling, and if I do a shaded view, I probably need some light in here to really actually see that very well. Constant colors, that's a little bit better. But anyway, that's how you do a funky ceiling. And you could make it any kind of shape you wanted and do all kinds of weird stuff. It's pretty easy once you kind of learn the modeling tools.